terrible hot.
We are tracking the heat wave and when we could get relief.
Just because we need more shelter beds doesn't mean that we should accept any deal.
The mayor's plans to build a mega shelter is getting pushback. His plans this morning to gain support.
I'm glad to be alive and breathing.
On the 80th anniversary of D-Day, Max Gurney recalls his service under General George S. Patton.
Plus, we are live as SeaWorld kicks off Summer Spectacular. It's 6 a.m. on Thursday, June 6th, and you're up with CBS 8.
Oh boy, the heat is ramping up today in our county. Thanks for joining us at 6 a.m. everyone on this Thursday. I'm Eric Connert.
And I'm Netta Irampour. So we're going to start the show here with meteorologist Evan Narani to get a check of that forecast. Where will it be hot, Evan?
So mountains and deserts in particular are where the hottest temperatures, where the largest departure from normal is going to be felt. That's where our temperatures, for the deserts at least, will be about 10 to 15 degrees warmer than average. Along the coast, however, we're at 70. 70 would be average. So yesterday we were below average along the coastline. Inland valleys were still pretty warm in the upper 70s. That's largely because of that dense marine layer that's overhead, and it's with us yet again this morning. So if you're waking up to cloud cover, you are probably one of those spots around San Diego County that will stay right around average, if not maybe a few degrees above average. Average would be 70 for the coast, about low 80s for your inland valleys. But look at your mountains at 87 this afternoon. Desert's going for 110 on that afternoon high. So warmer as you start to make your way east, especially with those deserts. 110, about 10, 15 degrees above average. Palm Springs right now is at 79 degrees. Bakersfield at 78. Vegas at 87. Some of these cities are breaking their record for the warmest overnight low temperature for the day, that daily record. But for us in San Diego, we're at 63. Some of our inland valleys just in that 60-degree range for the most part. Coming up, we'll talk more about what to expect into the rest of the next several days, whether or not we're going to warm up more or start cooling down. Back to you.
Democracy is never guaranteed. Every generation must preserve it, defend it, and fight for it. That's the test of the ages. In memory of those who fought here, died here, literally saved the world here. Let us be worthy of their sacrifice.
And that right there, President Joe Biden speaking in Normandy this morning to mark 80 years since D-Day. The president also talked about democracy being in danger in parts of the world today and also said, quote, "We will not walk away from Ukraine's defense from Russia and allow, quote, surrender to bullies."
D-Day is known as the beginning of the end of World War II. In 1944, 150,000 Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy in Nazi-occupied France. It was the largest military invasion by sea in history. 10,000 lives were lost. The San Diego Air and Space Museum will honor veterans during a ceremony at 9:30 this morning. And coming up here at 6:30 on this show, Jeff Zeverly sits down with two legendary veterans from the greatest generation.
And now, new this morning, a SWAT standoff in Nestor is over. The suspect was taken into custody about 1:20 this morning without incident.
Yeah, it started around 7 o'clock last night in the 1100 block of Nestor Way, just off Coronado Avenue. Police got calls about a woman threatening people with a knife. Police tell us she barricaded herself inside of her apartment, and then the SWAT team was called in and neighbors were evacuated. Everyone has been allowed back home.
And this morning, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria will highlight funding for homelessness in his budget.
And this comes as the mayor's plan to open a 1,000-bed shelter bed faces a hurdle here. CBS 8's Regina Yarita live along Harbor Island now with the latest on this. Regina?
Yeah, good morning, guys. And look, all eyes are on this budget, especially since the city is still in the middle of budget talks. So negotiations are still going on, especially during these next couple of days. But today, Mayor Todd Gloria is focusing and highlighting some of those homeless investments that he's hoping to include. Now, the city's general fund and the San Diego Housing Commission's budgets combined allocate more than $200 million to address housing and homelessness. Since a budget review committee will discuss Mayor Todd Gloria's proposal to spend spend millions on homeless programs tomorrow. Today, Mayor Gloria will try to urge the city council to pass his updated budget that protects city services, but also includes two of his biggest homeless projects. He's having his press conference at the site known as H Barracks. This is just west of the San Diego International Airport. At that site, Mayor Gloria is pushing to expand it into a safe parking program for homeless. But he's also asking leaders to support and make room for funding for a homeless shelter on Kettner and Vine. This is meant to be a mega homeless shelter that could temporarily house 1,000 unsheltered people. Stephen Whitburn is the council member for the district where the shelter will be located. And according to newly released documents that show his spending priorities for the coming year, he's willing to fully fund the shelter. Now, this all comes as several council members don't currently support the Kettner project, meaning budget talks could start to heat up in the next several days. Councilmember Henry Foster's budget modification memorandum recommends cutting $1.9 million out of the budget and restores all money to the San Diego Housing Commission. And Council President Sean Elo Rivera mentioned nothing about funding the shelter, but he too wants more money going to the Housing Commission. So here's what he told us.
We do need more shelter beds. And just because we need more shelter beds doesn't mean that we should accept any deal.
And so on Tuesday, the budget is expected to go to the entire city council. Eric Ganetta.
Regina, thank you for that. And now new this morning, a special education teacher's aide is facing charges for an incident at Steel Canyon High School. The employee was charged with disorderly conduct under the influence of alcohol, as well as contributing to the delinquency of a minor. The school has not said what exactly happened. The employee has been placed on leave while the Grossmont Union High School District investigates.
Today is San Diego Police Chief David Nislight's last day of service. He is retiring after 36 years on the force. At 1 p.m., Chief Nislight will leave police headquarters for the final time and turn over the command to newly selected Chief of Police Scott Wall. Nislight was the city's police chief for more than 6 years. The 59-year-old grew up in the Rolando neighborhood and started with the department in 1988. On Tuesday, the city declared June 4th as Chief Nislight Day. Right now, San Diego's desert areas are experiencing their first real heat wave of the year.
An excessive heat warning in effect until tomorrow. So it was more than 100 degrees yesterday. Temperatures could get as high as 110 or above. If you're thinking about hiking, people over at the Anza Borrego Desert State Park suggest you go in the early morning hours.
Plenty of water, loose, light clothing, definitely a hat, sunscreen. Don't be afraid to splash yourself with lots of water during your hike, before and during your hike, and afterwards to cool down.
Okay, good advice right there from people who live in that heat. Evan now with safety tips on what people can do. Of course, hiking in the desert right now does not seem like the ideal thing to do, but you know, there are people who love it.
You never know, right? People have their own ideas.
Yeah.
And I mean, the
Routines.
mountains in
Right,
particular
right.
are where we see those temperatures in the 80s and in some cases the 90s. Yesterday was where we peaked across our mountains. Today is where we will peak across the deserts. And then tomorrow is where we will peak along our coast and inland. But the coastline, inland valleys, not quite as affected by this ridge of high pressure, thanks to that marine layer. So tips out there, drink plenty of water. That should go without saying. Take frequent breaks in the shade. Again, these are both things that you probably think about and would say, obviously, that would be the best suggestion. But a lot of people don't heed those warnings, and that's because you can't exactly see the heat out there. You just feel it. And sometimes you don't feel it until it's too late. So take the precautions necessary so that you don't have to wait to feel it. You can just be ahead of it. Avoid strenuous outdoor activity during the midday hours. We know a lot of people work outside. That's where the shade and the breaks should come into play. Have a place to cool down, so know where to go if you need to seek that shade. And then, of course, wearing light-colored, lightweight, loose-fitted clothes. This is one of those times where we always suggest that you check on your neighbors. Older people and younger people are most susceptible. Pets should be inside if possible. And if you have AC, wonderful. But remember, on our website, you can find more information on cooling centers. Libraries are a great place to go. And it's all happening as many kids are about to head out on summer break. So let's talk about where those temperatures are for this afternoon compared to the next 2 days following. So 3 days in total here. Today is not our warmest for the coastline or inland valleys. We warm up another few degrees going into tomorrow. but for our mountains and deserts, we'll actually cool down into tomorrow. Today is the peak heat for Borrego Springs at 110. Record breaking is 112. So we'll be only 2 degrees off of record-breaking heat. Excessive heat warning for our deserts. Heat advisory up around Riverside County, moving into San Bernardino County. We've showed you how wide-ranging these alerts are and how they cover a good portion of the southwestern U.S. Walking out the door right now, 61 in Oceanside, 60 in Escondido. Some of those 50s out there for areas like Ramona, 53, 58 in Jamul, 57 in La Mesa. And like we said yesterday, while it was 104, 105 degrees in Borrego Springs, 89 degrees for Julian, the coastline stayed at 68 for yesterday afternoon. Still cooler than average, thanks to that cloud cover out there. Let's talk about traffic. Take a look at your drive times as you head out the door. Right now, we're looking pretty good. Coronado Bridge has some slightly slower speeds. You're at 48 miles per hour across the bridge, but should be still pretty good to go, only 3 minutes in total. When we look at your border wait times across the San Ysidro Port of Entry, going to be about 40 minutes in total. Otay Mesa Port of Entry the last couple of days has been taking a bit longer out there, and in some cases today could take you an hour and 40 or so. So more than double the time it'll take to get across the San Ysidro Port of Entry. You can find more on traffic and border wait times on our website, cbs8.com/traffic.
Want to know what's on tap here at SeaWorld this summer? We've got a hint here. Starts with Shamu and 60 years to celebrate.